Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was kidnapped by female Itachi, part 3, the last part. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Sipping his tea, Sasuke studied Itachi, and was relieved to see how much better Itachi looked. The walk and the tea had obviously helped. When they'd finished their tea, Itachi started to go back to his feuding, but Naruto grabbed his wrist. Is there something I can do for you, Naruto-kun? Naruto took a deep breath. Would you like to sleep the rest of the night in my bed? He asked. The offer made him nervous, and he hoped Itachi wouldn't take the offer the wrong way, but it was something he'd always wanted when he'd had nightmares alone, as a child. Itachi wasn't a child, but Naruto had noticed that his presence had helped Itachi calm down while they walked. Itachi frowned. Why? He asked. He desperately wished he could see. Naruto was still fairly easy to read, but that required being able to see the boy's expression. Itachi couldn't. His, even if it had been active, wouldn't fix that. If he'd been looking through someone's eyes, he'd be able to see, but that was his only choice. Sasuke might not be able to read his brother, but he could see Naruto's embarrassment and fear of Itachi's reaction. Just do it, Itachi, he snapped. I can hardly crawl in with you, and I doubt you want to share with me. Unless something has changed, you sleep better with someone beside you. Itachi nodded slowly. He had always slept better on the nights when his small brother had slipped into his bed. Still, this was a very different situation, and awkward. You trust me to sleep beside you? He asked. Yes, Naruto said immediately. I trust you, Itachi. That's absolute. At first, as they crawled into the bed and tried to get settled, they were hypersensitive to any contact, but they both found that they got comfortable surprisingly quickly. They slept soon after, with Sasuke looking on. Sasuke didn't sleep until he was sure they would both stay asleep for a while. There was so little he could do for them, a pet who was safely leashed, but that much he could do. The next morning, Itachi's eyes worked again, as well as they ever did anymore. He couldn't hide his relief from Naruto that he was able to see the blurred room around him, lit by early morning light. He'd been frustrated by how little he could see for a while, but having experienced what he would deal with when his eyes finally failed entirely, he was suddenly grateful for even his poor vision. You should still see your medic, Naruto told him. I intend to. I already have an appointment this afternoon, while you're at your lesson with the leader. How's your illness? Sasuke looked up immediately, very interested in the answer. Something you don't know? Itachi asked softly. He doubted it, and his eyes still worked well enough for him to see the swift glance Naruto cast at Sasuke. I know you're doing better than you were when I first got here. You're healthier, healing. Yes I am, Itachi agreed. At this point, the only reason I still have appointments is to make sure I will not relapse. I'll have those appointments for a long time, though the frequency will decrease. Naruto nodded. He caught the shades of truth in Itachi's soft poisonous voice, but did not call him on them. Naruto also saw Sasuke's relief. Is there any permanent damage? I have slight scarring on my lungs that will bother me after extensive physical activity, but that's all. Akatsuki has very good medicine. If he had gone to them sooner, there would be no lingering damage. But he had wanted to die. Until Pain had somehow figured out that an end-of-the-world weapon wouldn't enable him to create peace. Itachi and Konan had been the two Pain had spoken to about his change of heart, and it had been enough for Itachi to decide the world might just have something worth living. With Naruto and Sasuke here, and willing to get along with him, he wasn't regretting his decision. After breakfast, Itachi was the one to make a suggestion on how to spend their morning. Naruto has no scheduled lessons until he meets with the leader this afternoon. Would you two like to go down to a training court and do some taijutsu practice and sparring? Sasuke startled. Are you sure? He asked. You've bought some trust, Itachi said. I will be watching carefully, but you did say you wanted to train and spar. Sasuke had behaved perfectly on the mission, even when the seals went inactive while he was fighting. The cursed seal would have been affecting him, but he still didn't attack anyone but their enemies. He didn't go crazy, as he had when he first got the seal in the Forest of Death. Instead, Sasuke had gone out of his way to be helpful. He had willingly accepted permanent seals that cut him off from many of his skills. And he had told Naruto what to do when Itachi woke up screaming from a nightmare. Though Sasuke would never be completely trustworthy, he had earned a little freedom. Thanks, Nai-san. I would enjoy training or sparring. There are things about the Uchiha Taijutsu style I have never mastered. I tried to learn from scrolls, but that isn't perfect. Naruto rested a light hand on Itachi's shoulder for a moment. Then let's go. It'll be good to spar. There was one small delay while Itachi removed the cuff that kept Sasuke from leaving the suite, and took advantage of the opportunity to check the permanent cuffs and collar. They aren't bothering you? Itachi asked quietly. They're fine. Sasuke activates his Sharingan briefly to make his point. It took every bit of the chakra Itachi allowed him, but he could use it. To his relief, he felt nothing from the cursed seal, and no increased aggression. Itachi had done a good job with the seals. Naruto and Sasuke spent the morning sparring with each other, while Itachi gave both of them tips. They stuck to Taijutsu, both aware the whole time that Sasuke had no choice. Sasuke was also very careful not to hurt Naruto. Before he left Konoha, he and Naruto had simply accepted that they'd come out of any sparring session with plenty of bruises at the very least, but Sasuke couldn't trust Itachi to be so tolerant. Naruto was not so careful, and Sasuke's reticence eventually frustrated Naruto into losing his temper. "Why the hell are you treating me like I'm made of glass?" he demanded. "I'm not that fucking breakable." Sasuke stepped back and folded his arms, glaring. "You idiot," he snapped. 5 seconds of thought ought to tell you. Being allowed to spar is a privilege for me now. When I don't want to lose. In case you haven't noticed, you have a guard who won't be too happy if you get hurt. If I do anything Itachi doesn't like, he won't let me spar again. Damn it. Naruto snapped. Itachi's silence told Naruto that Sasuke was exactly right. Sasuke sighed. "It's not stopping us from sparring," he said. "And there's no restrictions on you. I don't care if I come out with bruises. Now, let's get back to sparring." "Fine," Naruto said, but he was more careful, too. It took some of the fun out of the sparring, but it was still good to practice with Sasuke again. With Itachi's advice, they both found their taijutsu improving. At lunch, they returned to Naruto's rooms, and Itachi replaced the cuff that kept Sasuke from leaving. Sasuke sighed when it closed around his wrist above the cuff that was now a permanent part of him, but he didn't argue. Itachi was kind enough to leave a scroll on a couple of taijutsu techniques for Sasuke to study before taking Naruto to his lesson with pain. "At least it's a comfortable cage," Sasuke muttered, as he watched Itachi close the door behind them. For a brief moment, their eyes met, but Itachi didn't say anything. After dropping Naruto off at Pain's office, Itachi headed for the medic, and had to admit that he'd spent over an hour completely blind, after accidentally using his Mangekyou Sharingan, though his eyes had recovered almost to the point where they'd been the previous day. After some tests, and a few healing techniques, the medic sat back with a sigh. "I don't think I'll be telling you anything you don't know when I say that going blind is inevitable for you at this point. No? Even if I never use Mangekyou again, it is too late for my eyes." "Yes, well. How fast it happens will obviously depend on how much you use your Mangekyou Sharingan. I have done my best to stabilize your eyes, to slow the deterioration." "Thank you." The medic shrugged. "It is little enough. By my best guess, you will now have a period of complete blindness after every use of your Mangekyou Sharingan. Each time, it will take longer for your sight to recover, and it will recover less. You need to be aware of that, and prepared before you use the technique. You also need to prepare for the day your vision won't come back." Itachi nodded. He had realized the previous night how big a difference there was between being nearly and totally blind. Still, he had been training. If he hadn't been so disoriented by the nightmare, and if Naruto hadn't been stubborn, Itachi would have had a sensory technique active, and wouldn't have needed Naruto to guide him. Still, the previous night had taught him that there would be times he would need help, perhaps more than his clones could provide. "Is there anything I need to do?" Itachi asked. "Avoid straining your eyes. If you avoid using even your regular Sharingan except when you need it, that will buy you a little extra time. If you can tolerate wearing a blindfold in safe territories, that would buy you more, though I am uncertain how much. It might not be enough extra to be worth it. Other than that, come see me each time you have to use Mangekyou Sharingan, and continue our regular appointments. There's nothing else to be done. I do have your regular medicine, and you can decrease the dosage by half this time. You're nearly at full health, and your disease shows no signs of recurring." At least there was some good news, though the news about his eyes was hardly unexpected. Itachi took the medicine, bowed slightly to the medic, and left to go collect Naruto from Pain's office. He had no doubt that Pain would already know everything the medic had said by the time he got there. Slipping into the room at the leader's invitation, Itachi had to smile at how animated Naruto seemed. Clearly, he enjoyed these lessons with Pain. Itachi turned to the leader, and offered a much deeper bow than he had given to the medic. "Leader-sama. Itachi. Join us for a few minutes." Itachi glided forward, and obediently took a seat next to Naruto. "How are your lessons going, if I may ask without prying into clan matters?" he asked. "Well," Pain said. "They're great," Naruto added. Itachi smiled. "I'm glad." Pain nodded. "When do you leave for Konoha?" he asked. "I had thought to go in 4 days," Itachi said. "Though it is obviously up to Naruto." "It's fine with me," Naruto said. "I assume you intend to take your brother, Itachi." "I had thought so," Itachi agreed. "Fine. Then kiss him goes as well, and we'll watch him somewhere outside the village." Itachi nodded. "I expected as much," he admitted. "I also want to meet him before you leave. This afternoon, by preference. Bring him to me for a meeting sometime in the next few hours." "Of course, Leader-sama. You aren't going to make him leave, are you?" Naruto asked. "No. I want to meet him because he is staying. I want to meet everyone who lives in my tower." "Oh," Naruto said, and nodded. You can go, Pain said, but he called Itachi back before he could follow Naruto out the door. One last thing, Itachi. You are banned from taking solo missions. For good. Itachi sighed silently. It wasn't a surprise, but it was still irritating. Not that it would have much of an effect at this point. Naruto had agreed to stay, and Itachi was assigned to him for the duration. Itachi wouldn't be the only member of Akatsuki with that restriction. Haiden and Deidara had to have their partners with them, too. However, they needed their partners because they were inclined to go overboard, not because the leader thought they couldn't take care of themselves. I have no doubt you could handle any situation, but I have become accustomed to having my second-in-command come back uninjured from missions. No matter how good you are, there will be a moment of disorientation when your eyes or your techniques fail. I want someone with you for that moment. I do understand, Leader Sama. Does Naruto qualify? Yes. Your brother doesn't. That wasn't a surprise, and Itachi simply nodded and left the room without another word. What's got you upset? Naruto asked. He was tempted to reach out and take Itachi's hand, wanting to tuck it in his arm, as he had the previous night, but he refrained. Itachi was not blind now, and had been active. He would not appreciate any implications that he was helpless. Itachi glanced down at Naruto. He didn't need perfect vision to figure out what Naruto was thinking. After a fairly isolated childhood, Naruto craved tactile contact, though he had few people with whom he could indulge that craving, and none since he had come to Akatsuki. After the previous night's events, Itachi had started to move out of the untouchable category, but he knew he was still an intimidating person, one Naruto didn't want to offend. If you want to touch me, go ahead. We already woke up tangled up this morning. Without dwelling on the subject, Itachi repeated the leader's new restriction. But why? I don't care how bad your eyes get, I can't imagine you losing to many people. Itachi closed his eyes. Do you mind if we go to my rooms? I would prefer to discuss this somewhere other than the hall, and before we go back to Sasuke. Sure. Do you remember the way? Yeah, I do. Lead me, please. Itachi held out his hand and settled at Naruto's shoulder when Naruto set the hand on his arm. Though he didn't release Itachi focused more on following Naruto's lead than what his technique told him about his surroundings, and he didn't open his eyes. In his room, he began making tea, as he had the previous night. I am going blind, Naruto-kun. But you knew that. Working with the medics and leader, I'll be able to save my Sharingan, but my vision is a lost cause. He explained what the medic had said about what would happen each time he used his Mangekyo Sharingan, and what Pain had said about that moment of disorientation, however brief. I get it. Like the first moment someone's under one of your more obvious ones. Itachi laughed softly. I suppose so. He passed over a cup of tea. I have little time before my eyes fail entirely. I have been training to compensate, but it is suddenly more urgent. I need to be able to function completely blind for hours at a time before I next need my Mangekyo Sharingan, because each use will leave me blind. I need to practice, but there are few people I can trust not to try to take advantage. There are people in Akatsuki who would love to take my position as second in command. You would win, but you don't want to bother with the fights, Naruto said. Exactly. With your permission, I would like to practice when I am with you, and when we are training. Alright. Whatever you want, just tell me. You have my thanks, Naruto-kun. What else is bothering you? Itachi didn't bother to hide his wince, knowing Naruto would see it anyway. Leader wants to see Sasuke. I assume you were able to read him, as well as you read me. Naruto blushed. No, I can't. Yeah, I can read him, but not as easily as I can read you. Why not? I had thought you could read me because you were used to reading him. Yeah, that helped, but it isn't that simple. Naruto frowned, unusually concerned about offending someone. Partly, it's because you know yourself a lot better than Sasuke does. You're self-aware, and not prone to deluding yourself or being confused. Sasuke is. He loved you, as much as he hated you for years, otherwise he never would have gotten so clingy when he found out the truth. But he denied it. He's harder to understand because he doesn't understand himself. Itachi nodded. What else? Naruto flinched and looked away. You won't offend me, Naruto-kun. You submit to me, Itachi, Naruto said finally. You do it on more than just a superficial level. More than just a way to manipulate me into staying. That made it harder at first. I thought you had to have some ulterior motive or resent having to do, as I say. I'm still a genin, and you're well. When I figured out you were willing, I knew how to read you. Frowning a little, Itachi considered that for a long moment, and strained his eyes to take in, as much as possible, Naruto's posture and expression. He didn't understand how his willingness to submit to Naruto would make him easier to read, but eventually, he decided to accept it. Alright. I am not offended. What does my ability to read you and Sasuke have to do with why you're upset? I am concerned about the meeting between the leader and Sasuke. Leader dislikes Sasuke, and is accepting his presence here for our sake. I doubt he will permit either of us to be present during the meeting. Sasuke is not trustworthy, do you understand that? Yeah. He's a traitor, and his word isn't worth much. Not when his emotions get involved. Exactly. The seals I have placed on Sasuke help, but we are asking him to accept Sasuke as more than a prisoner who is kept heavily restricted at all times. I know how leader thinks. I don't trust Sasuke, and he's my brother. I believe he's sincere about wanting to stay with us, but however well I still understand him, I could be wrong. Or he could find out something that makes him change his mind. I have prevented Orochimaru's seal from affecting him most of the time, but Sasuke still isn't that stable. What will Nagato do? Leaders like to use humiliation to remind people of their place. It is why Deidara has to deal with me whenever he gets too worked up. Naruto could understand that. In fact, with Itachi's abilities, he was probably one of Nagato's favorite people for the job. And he'll find some way to humiliate Sasuke. Itachi nodded. Sasuke got a full dose of our clan's traditional arrogance, even if he's suppressing it as hard as he can. Do you know what Sasuke believes he is while here? Naruto shook his head. He could guess, but Sasuke had been careful about what he said. My pet. There is a certain amount of truth in that. And you think Nagato will take advantage of that? I know he will. I am uncertain as to how much to warn Sasuke before the meeting. Naruto nodded. I don't know. You are good at manipulation. Do you want me to talk to him? No? You've never seen a leader like that, and I doubt you ever will. He's decided to treat you like family. Itachi took a deep breath. I will manage. Do you have anything else to speak to me about? Naruto considered Itachi very carefully, trying to be sure he knew everything that had upset Itachi. You're also worried about going back to Konoha, he guessed. A little. It is not pleasant to go back there. I will be going with you, but if they figure out who I am, we will both be in trouble. It will make it much harder for you to resign rather than going missing. I could go alone. But he knew even, as he made the offer that Itachi would never accept. Lead me back to your rooms. Itachi asked softly. Back in Naruto's rooms, Itachi considered how he wanted to approach the discussion with Sasuke. Naruto glanced between them, and headed into the bedroom to let them talk alone. Alright, what's going on, Nai-san? Sasuke asked. Leader wants to meet with you. It is not a meeting you are going to enjoy. Leader is going to find a way to embarrass you, to remind you that you are here at his sufferance. Sasuke nodded slowly. He looked up, and met Itachi's eyes. For once, Itachi's eyes were dark, without the Sharingan, and Sasuke could actually see what Naruto had meant, could see that Itachi was going blind. So you want me to hold my temper? I can do that. I'll do what it takes to stay, Nai-san. I know I'll never be a member. I know you'll never trust me. I can live with that. Can you, Itato? The rest of your life could be a very long time. I would rather spend my life as your pet than as Orochimaru's property or alone. When Itachi didn't move, Sasuke scowled. Do you want me to get on my knees to prove it? If you can do it, I can. Itachi nodded. Fine. He didn't completely agree. Being on his knees to Naruto didn't bother Itachi, but it would bother Sasuke. Still, he would accept Sasuke's words. Let's go. You have to take the cuff off to let me out of these rooms, Sasuke said coolly. I haven't forgotten. Give me your hand. A sweat of blood, and Itachi's chakra released the cuff, and Itachi led the way to Pain's office. Remember to keep your temper. When they entered Pain's invitation, Itachi bowed, but Sasuke did not. He did stand at attention. At Pain's raised eyebrows, Sasuke said, Itachi has made it clear I will not be one of yours, so I will not pretend I am. Fine, Pain said. Itachi, excuse us. Itachi bowed again, and left without protest, taking up a guard position outside the door. Sasuke was in no real danger. I'll take over, kiss him, he called. He didn't need his eyes or heads to know Naruto was hovering down the hall. Kiss him snorted, and left, while Naruto walked over to stand opposite Itachi. Then they both waited. Inside the office, Pain said, sit down, boy. Tell me. What were you going to do when Orochimaru tried to take your body? Kill him, Sasuke said simply. Breaking your word, and turning traitor a second time. Yes. I never claimed to be trustworthy. Itachi and Naruto are what I have left, but I have already betrayed them both. Naruto by going to Orochimaru, and shoving a fist through his chest. As for Itachi, Sasuke had betrayed Itachi by believing the loving, but distant brother could become a monster. Even if Sasuke had only believed what Itachi told him, it was still a betrayal. I will do what it takes to be permitted to stay with them. He lifted his hand, traced the collar he wore. The seals are already permanent, and locked to my brother's blood, and chakra. So you'll agree to be confined to my cousin's rooms for good. Your cousin? Sasuke asked slowly. You mean Naruto? That would explain a great deal. I do. Will you agree to it? Sasuke took a deep breath. If that is what it takes. I would prefer to be a little more useful. I do not want to resent what family I have left. The seals will not make me resent them, but living trapped might. I know I am Itachi's pet more than his little brother now, though Itachi was the one who had quietly insisted on the familial titles. Sasuke was all too well aware of what he was to his brother, but a pet can still help them. I know the agreement you made with Itachi, Pain said. It is a risk, but I will take that risk for my cousin, and my second in command. With one additional stipulation. Sasuke nodded. This stipulation would be what Itachi had been warning him about. Keeping ringed eyes focused on Sasuke, Pain pulled something out of his desk and tossed it across the room, and Sasuke snapped it out of the air. He frowned down at the coil of leather in his hand and needed only a second to figure out what it was. A leash. It is not intended as a restraint, Pain said. You can obviously remove it any time. So the point is that I will put myself on a leash and remind myself that I get to stay here as long as I am Itachi's pet. When Pain raised an eyebrow, Sasuke frowned. I am not Itachi, but I'm not an idiot. Inclining his head, Pain smiled slightly. I will not expect it while you're training under Itachi's eyes or when you're on a mission, but when you are not training or working or confined in my cousin's rooms, I expect you on that leash. If I catch you off it without a reason in my territory, I will find a more pointed way to remind you. Train with them, go on missions with them, and explore my country with them, but do not ever forget. This will serve your purpose nicely, Sasuke said. He ran his fingers over his collar and found the loop. The end of the leash attached with a simple clip, one Sasuke could undo at any time. That made Pain's intentions more pointed. Sasuke would be doing this willingly. Sasuke met Pain's ringed eyes steadily and attached the clip. His eyes flashed once, Sharingan red, before he suppressed his bloodline and waited for what Pain would say next. Good. You will only ever work with Itachi, doing what he permits, so I do not expect to see you often. You're dismissed. Again, Sasuke didn't bow, for all that he'd gotten even more freedom than he'd expected from the leader of Akatsuki. His pride stung. Just as Pain had intended. In the hall, Sasuke passed the free end of the leash to Itachi without a word, and watched in surprise, as Itachi frowned, and ran his fingers up the strip of leather to where it clipped to the collar, using his fingertips to see what his eyes couldn't. I understand, Itachi said quietly, and withdrew his hand. I don't like it, Naruto snapped. And I don't want to talk about it, Sasuke retorted. It means I can go wherever Itachi is willing to take me. I made my bargain, Naruto. Speaking of, we could consider eating out this evening, Itachi said. If you are willing to let people see you, at Tauto, I know several good places to eat. I haven't suggested it before because you couldn't have come. Sasuke touched one cuff and shrugged. I'm not eager to be stared at, but I would enjoy going out. And you might, as well, start getting used to it. As he told Naruto, it was the bargain he'd made for a bit of freedom. He wasn't going to let shame take that freedom away. Fine. Itachi considered him and saved his eyes, but he chose not to be led this time. I do not enjoy cutting myself up multiple times a day. I may alter the seals that keep you confined to Naruto's rooms, but until, and unless I do, you get one trip out a day. Keep that in mind. Sasuke nodded. Do we need to go back to the rooms, or shall we go straight to dinner? Itachi thought about the places he knew to eat, and chose one that was casual, but had good food, including ramen for Naruto. It was also a place that was familiar with Akatsuki members. I need to stop by my rooms, but not by Naruto's. At some point, they were going to have to discuss permanent room arrangements, since Naruto was staying, but Itachi intended to leave that subject alone, until they got back from Konoha. People did stare, but they also stayed out of the group's way. Itachi was a known face and name. Unlike Conan, he was not involved in ruling the country, but people knew he was close to their ruler, and powerful. Unlike most of the world, the people of AIM did not fear Itachi, but they were still cautious of him. They knew what he'd done to his clan. The world knew what Uchiha Itachi had done to his clan the night he left Konoha. He helped make sure of that, helping to hide that Konoha had ordered it. They enjoyed their dinner out. Naruto helped Itachi read the menu, and the check, when it came, without comment or being asked. Sasuke felt bad for not thinking to do it first, when he was the one to whom Itachi had admitted he could no longer read, but he eventually decided Itachi must have told Naruto when he wasn't around. He happened to be wrong, Naruto simply knew. Itachi merely thanked Naruto for his help, and paid the check. Sasuke had no money, and rather doubted that would change anytime soon, perhaps ever. Naruto did have money, particularly since he had the winnings from the casino, but read Itachi well enough to know that arguing would be pointless, so he didn't bother. They spent the remaining few days before they left for Konoha training, but since the first dinner out had gone well, they also spent a bit of time every afternoon or evening out in AIM, before confining Sasuke back in Naruto's rooms. As Pain had implied, Sasuke took charge of his leash, remembering to attach the club to his collar, and hand the other end to Itachi every time they went out. This served the exact purpose Pain had intended. It reminded Sasuke to be on his best behavior to keep his place. But the leash was nowhere in sight when they left for Konoha. This time, all four of them wore masks. If someone identified Itachi in Konoha, there was guaranteed to be a fight. If they caught him, he'd probably be able to talk his way out of an execution, given that he had proof the massacre had been a mission, but he was still a missing nin, and a member of Akatsuki. And even if he could get himself out of any trouble, and back out of Konoha, which was not guaranteed, they would use his presence against Naruto. Itachi did not want to have to call in Sasuke and kiss him to rescue them, especially because he knew Naruto would have a hard time fighting people from Konoha, even if he had decided to leave. Better all around if no one recognized Itachi. He had papers from a megakure giving an alternate name, and he was quite capable of using it to hide his face if he had to take his mask off. He also braided his hair instead of leaving it in his usual ponytail. Naruto dressed, as he had since he arrived in AIM, though he continued to grumble under his breath about the lack of orange. He sent a glare at Itachi and Sasuke when he caught Sasuke snickering, and Itachi smirking while he tied off his braid. Though Sasuke started to put on the same clothes he'd worn for the casino mission, Itachi intercepted him and passed him the different shirt. When he put it on, he found it covered his collar and cuffs. "I'm allowed to hide them?" he asked, surprised that Pain would agree to that. "It's just in case you have to go into Konoha," Itachi said. "Any other village, you wouldn't be." That made a lot more sense, and Sasuke nodded. Even Kisame was a little tense as they traveled toward Konoha. Itachi was his partner, and he didn't like letting Itachi go into the village that had the most reason to want him dead alone. In Kisame's opinion, Naruto didn't count. Itachi was under orders to put Naruto's safety first. Itachi had no trouble getting them across the border, though he shook his head at the discovery that they still hadn't changed the security measures. They knew they had an ex-Anbu missing nin, and they knew he'd slipped over the border and into the village before. "Don't complain about something that makes our lives easier," Kisame told him. "You're the one who preferred to avoid a fight." Itachi raised an eyebrow. "Did I say anything?" "Yes. Last time we did this." Itachi shook his head, as the other three laughed at him, but he briefly rested a hand on Kisame's shoulder in gratitude that he wouldn't say. The teasing had broken Naruto's nerves, even if it was at Itachi's expense. Shortly after, Naruto and Itachi left Kisame and Sasuke behind, as they took to the path that led to Konoha's main gates. Naruto had removed his mask and hood, fully intending to be recognized to keep as much attention as possible focused on him instead of Itachi. He also had a bit of Itachi's chakra in his eyes. Itachi could not activate his Sharingan in Konoha's walls for any reason, unless someone had already identified him, so he needed tricks to support his eyes more than ever. As Naruto had proved, people could sense his, so he left it inactive, and relied on Naruto's eyes to see. They signed in at the gate to some raised eyebrows that Naruto was traveling with an AIM shinobi, but there was no shock at seeing him. Apparently, the news that Akatsuki had taken him, or more specifically that Itachi had taken him if Jiraiya's spy network had been particularly effective, hadn't spread through the lower ranks of shinobi in Konoha. Still, Naruto wasn't surprised that an Anbu dropped down in front of him and told him to report to the Hokage less than 10 minutes after he'd entered the village. Since he'd been heading there already, all this accomplished was to give him an escort that got him past various bureaucratic stops that might have slowed him down otherwise. But probably not. Naruto had a lot of experience getting into that office, and Itachi knew how Anbu got access. And it wasn't like that was knowledge they had to hide. Naruto was known for getting into secret places, generally for pranks. Itachi had been a little surprised to know how many of Konoha's secret ways Naruto knew, and Itachi was less likely than most to underestimate the boy. Tsunade grabbed Naruto as soon as he stepped into the office and squeezed him in a tight hug. "Jiraiya told me Akatsuki had you. What happened? How did you get away? And who is this?" She finally noticed Itachi's presence and the mark of a megakure on his mask. "You were a name." "Turns out I'm not quite the last Uzumaki," Naruto said. "My cousin is a shinobi in AIM with close connections to AIM's leader." Close, as if they were the same person, but that was more than Naruto was going to reveal. He would tell no lies, but the truth could be very misleading. "He found out I was in trouble and got me away. My guard, Raven, snuck me away." "You Raven?" Tsunade asked Itachi. "Yes, Hokage-sama." Even that wasn't a lie, it was a name Itachi had used before, since his own was known across the elemental nations after what he'd done to his clan. Though his reputation as a crazy mass murderer was often useful, there were other times when he didn't want to be recognized. Raven was named in good standing, and had been for years. Listening, Naruto smiled a little. Itachi had altered his voice, made it harsher, but he hadn't quite been able to remove the taint of poison that always flavored his speech. Naruto would have had no trouble identifying the voice, but he was starting to realize he knew Uchiha Itachi better than just about anyone. "Then I thank you for getting my precious person out of Akatsuki's hands." Though Naruto wanted to flinch, he showed nothing. "That is not all they did, Tsunade-sama." And while she was still staring at him, puzzled over his unusual formality, Naruto placed the paperwork sentencing Sasuke to death if he was caught. And the paperwork that forbade giving Naruto any promotions beyond genin level in front of her. As she stared at the paperwork, Naruto reached up and removed his forehead protector and placed it on top of Sasuke's execution order. "What are you doing, Naruto?" Tsunade whispered. "They do not want me to be a ninja. They do not value me. Even after everything I've done. It will never be enough. They will never trust me. I cannot do my job if I have to watch my back from my own superiors." And you have a cousin in AIM, and a bodyguard that he provided for you. Tsunade could see where this was going, and she hated it. She hated it more that she couldn't blame him. She desperately wanted to say that the papers were fake, that Naruto's cousin was trying to brainwash him, to steal Konoha's, but the papers were real. That's right, Naruto agreed. He added a carefully written letter of resignation to the pile on her desk. You and I both know they will have no trouble accepting my resignation. They think if I'm a civilian, I'll be back under their control. But you won't. As a civilian, you can't be declared a missing nin. You'll, legally, be free to leave Konoha. You know they'll still try to stop you. They'll still go after you. You're a target. That is why I am here, Hokage-sama, Itachi said. Naruto-sama's cousin arranged for me to be assigned directly to him, as a bodyguard. I assure you, I am competent. Tsunade closed her eyes. She was losing him, and there was nothing she could do. I'm sorry, Ba-chan. But I have to do this. I will not act against Konoha, you have my word on that. Tsunade nodded slowly. It will take a few days to go through. I understand, Naruto said. It will give me time to catch up with my friends. I haven't seen them for some time. Tsunade wanted to hope that seeing his friends, his precious people, would convince him to reconsider, but she knew that wasn't realistic. She could see it just from his level of comfort with his AIM bodyguard. And she could see how much his cousin valued him by the level of shinobi assigned to play bodyguard. Tsunade hadn't seen Raven fight, but she'd watched him move and observed his actions. Even in her office, he was on guard. Instead of heading for one of his friends, Naruto went back to his apartment. The confrontation with Tsunade had tired him. Regrets? Itachi asked in his own soft poisonous voice, after shutting the door behind them. No, Naruto said. I'll miss them, but nothing says I can't visit. Knowing they'll miss me is not enough to convince me to stay. Fair enough. A little under 2 hours later, Jiraiya was at Naruto's door. Itachi, who had never removed his mask, and wouldn't without a very good reason, and Naruto's permission, as long as he was within Konoha's walls, answered the door, and let Jiraiya in when Naruto gave permission. What can I do for you, Iro-senin? Jiraiya glanced at Itachi, but focused on Naruto. You can't go to AIM. You don't know everything that's going on there. Yes, I do, Naruto said. No, you don't, or you wouldn't be going there. If you want to leave Konoha, travel with me. Or settle somewhere, but not a Megakure. You'll be killed. There are people there. So Jiraiya had learned something about Akatsuki being based there. Out of everyone in Konoha, Naruto thought Jiraiya was the one he could trust. Jiraiya, he said, and his use of the man's real name attracted Jiraiya's immediate attention. I do know. Naruto looked at Itachi, who understood almost immediately, and removed his mask. Jiraiya-sama. Uchiha Itachi. Jiraiya slowly sat down. Apparently, Naruto really did know Akatsuki was a name. But that didn't explain how this situation had come about or guarantee Naruto's safety. I can promise you that we are no threat to Naruto-sama. Naruto winced, hearing that honorific from Itachi still really bothered him, even if he understood why Itachi was using it. Logically, it shouldn't bother him any more than seeing Itachi on his knees, something Naruto had seen countless times since arriving in AIM, but somehow, it was worse. Itachi glanced at Naruto, amused at the reaction, but quickly turned his attention back to Jiraiya. I am genuinely assigned to be his bodyguard, Itachi continued. His cousin wants him safe. Jiraiya was one of the few who knew the truth about the Uchiha massacre. He knew Itachi was sane. That didn't mean he was trustworthy. Why the change of heart? I cannot say much, Itachi said. I will just say that there has been a slight restructuring in Akatsuki. I guess that explains the rumors that you took your brother from Orochimaru a week or two ago. Where is he? Not in Konoha, Naruto said. Since he's under a death sentence. Jiraiya closed his eyes. Spy master that he was, he well understood the power of information. How much did you find out? Everything, Itachi said softly. I have always known Konoha's dirty little secrets, and that hardly changed when I became one of them. When the leader decided to recruit Naruto-sama instead of killing him, I told him. About the massacre, the laws about, and sentence on my little brother, his heritage, and the laws about him. And a few other details. Jiraiya was sure the revelations had been carefully calculated to best effect, but he also thought he saw that Naruto, his godson, might just be better off, and happier away from Konoha. That left Jiraiya with his priorities torn, but so few people had ever put Naruto first. So you'll not only go to AIM, but to Akatsuki. Cousin Nagato has ties to both, Naruto said. When he judges me to be skilled enough, I will be Akatsuki, yes. Within 2 years, Itachi said softly. Probably less. I expect to have him at S-class level within 6 to 9 months, though he will need to be a bit better than the average S-class shinobi before he becomes a full member of Akatsuki. You're training him. Jiraiya didn't know why he was surprised, when Itachi was clearly assigned as a bodyguard, but he was. Isn't all this a little below your abilities, Itachi? Naruto bristled, even though he agreed. The details of Akatsuki mission assignments are not something I am willing to discuss with Konoha's spy master. I am no longer a Konoha shinobi, and I am not acting against your village. Technically, suborning the villages might be considered acting against the village, but given some of Jiraiya's arguments with the Hokage and council about Naruto, Jiraiya was leaning toward Itachi's side. Fair enough, he said. Naruto is old enough to make his own decisions, but I am still concerned about him. Will your leader permit me to visit AIM and check on Naruto? Itachi considered it for a long moment. Send word first. We ought to be able to make arrangements. Nagato, I'll make it work, Naruto added. Jiraiya nodded and turned to leave, to think over everything he'd learned. Then he turned back. Did you say Nagato? Yes, Naruto said. That's my cousin. Uzumaki Nagato. Dazed at the thought that Nagato might still be alive, Jiraiya bade Itachi and Naruto an absent farewell, and left the apartment. What was that about? Naruto asked Itachi, who was carefully replacing his mask. Jiraiya trained Nagato and Konan for a while when they were children, Itachi said. Oh? Naruto didn't know what to think of that, so he changed the subject. I only have one bed. We'll have to share again. I had not intended to sleep. This is not safe territory for me. Don't be ridiculous. We'll set up a clone watch. You need to sleep. You may be able to go without, but it won't help your health, your eyes, or your awareness. All important. Itachi bowed his head, accepting the logic and the implicit command. I don't mind sharing. I slept fine last time. Actually, better than he usually did, something he didn't intend to say. Except that Naruto read him, as Naruto always did, and knew. They unsealed food and ate quickly before bed. The next day, Naruto would be searching out various friends, wondering Konoha while they waited for Tsunade to push his resignation through. Naruto's bed was small, so they started touching each other. They both slept through the night while a clone of each of them kept watch, and woke tangled in each other, their position thoroughly compromised if an attack came. Of course, that mattered little, with their clones there to warn them, and handle the first attack, if one came, and they both had abilities that wouldn't be compromised. Again, they ate supplies from ceiling scrolls. Naruto's kitchen was absolutely empty, since he'd been gone for years, and he had no intention of buying groceries when he'd only be there for a few days. They'd eat what they'd brought in a restaurant, or take out. After breakfast, Naruto frowned at Itachi. I'm going to wonder. I want to talk to Sakura first. Do you know what you're going to say to her? Some hard truths, and some misleading details. She wouldn't be able to keep it to herself if I told her I knew where Sasuke is. If she doesn't let me out of that promise, I'll fulfill it another time, when everything is settled, and my allegiances can come out safely. That seems wise. I will guard you, but will not interfere unless she attacks you. Naruto winced, remembering far too many hits to his head, and Sakura's temper, but knew this was outside his ability to give Itachi orders. Instead, he changed the subject. Is your chakra still in my eyes? Of course. Nothing has interfered. The only way to break other than for me to remove my chakra, would be for someone to use a breaking technique on you. Naruto nodded. Then let's go. The proper bodyguard, Itachi left the apartment first, and checked the hall. All right, clear, he said softly. When they were out on the streets, Itachi took a bodyguard's proper place at Naruto's heels. At the back of his mind, he kept a mild preparation in case anyone got too suspicious. Itachi's disguise was hardly foolproof. Naruto went by Sakura's house only to find that she'd moved out to an apartment she shared with Ino. She kept odd hours at the hospital, and didn't like disturbing her parents. Sakura answered the door, and rushed forward to hug Naruto. I am so glad to see you, she said. I was worried when Jiraiya came back without you, but Tsunade-sama wouldn't tell me what was going on. I'm fine, Naruto said. Nothing bad happened to me. I was visiting with a cousin. You found a family. Congratulations. Naruto gently pushed Sakura away from him. I need to talk to you. Is there somewhere private we can talk? Ino's with her family today. Come in. When Itachi followed Naruto in, Sakura frowned at him. Who are you? She demanded. I'm Raven, Itachi said quietly. I'm assigned to be Naruto's bodyguard for his cousin until he's safe. He used the same altered voice he had with Tsunade, though Sakura had never met Itachi. Like Naruto, he was aware of the taint of poison he could never strip from his voice, but since he couldn't change it, and doubted many other than Naruto could identify him solely from the taint, he didn't worry about it. My orders require me to be present, but I will not interfere in your conversation, as long as you are not a threat to my principal. He caught Naruto's nerves about the girl earlier, and hoped to warn her off. Naruto understood exactly what Itachi was trying to do, and smiled briefly at him. Raven's great, he told Sakura, but he isn't what I want to talk to you about. What is it? She asked. It's about Sasuke. I know I promised you I'd bring him back, but I found out that we can't. What? Why? What happened to Sasuke? Sakura demanded, fully distracted from Itachi. He's under a death sentence. No, he's not. She protested. The Hokage promised. He is. I wouldn't lie to you. Naruto handed her a copy of the order. No, Sakura whispered. No. She dropped the order after little more than a glance, and pushed past Naruto. This can't be right. She ran from the apartment. Naruto stared after her, lost, and a little guilty for hurting her, even if all he'd done was tell her the truth. We should go, Itachi said. We shouldn't be here when she gets back. Alright. They spent the day wandering through Konoha, chatting with the people they ran into. They didn't see Sakura again. The next day, the day they hoped would be Naruto's last full day in Konoha, they spent the morning the same way. That afternoon, they attended what most people thought was a welcome back party, and what a very few knew was a goodbye party. Sakura didn't come, but the rest of the rookies and Team Guy were there. The mood was light and happy, so Naruto knew Sakura hadn't spoken about what he told her. Though he was worried about her, he was glad she hadn't told anyone what he told her. Itachi, with compassion that only Naruto could or would expect of him, stuck to the shadows to let Naruto enjoy the evening with his friends. He was there, in case anything happened, but being more obtrusive would only remind Naruto of reality, and distract him from enjoying the goodwill of his friends. Itachi might have worried that such a show of affection would work, as the Hokage hoped, and convince Naruto to change his mind about leaving, but he had come to understand Naruto fairly well. Naruto might regret leaving, but he'd made up his mind. For all that he was more emotional and impulsive than a ninja was supposed to be, Itachi knew Naruto had thought about the decision carefully, weighing the consequences on both sides. He wouldn't turn back now. The party was at Ramen Ichiraku, so when people dispersed, Naruto stayed back to have a final bowl of ramen, and so people wouldn't notice him heading for the Hokage Tower. Shikamaru stayed slumped where he'd been sitting, seeming to have fallen asleep, but when everyone else was gone, he turned to Naruto with sharp eyes. "Where's your forehead protector, Naruto?" Naruto laughed, and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "It's in the Hokage's office. You know how she gets when someone calls her old." His act was perfect, but Shikamaru only narrowed his eyes. "Why do you have a foreign ninja as a bodyguard?" Naruto sighed, and ran his hand through his hair, while Itachi stepped out of the shadows to stand at Naruto's shoulder. "What do you know?" Naruto asked Shikamaru bluntly. "No? Nothing. Suspect. You'll be gone tomorrow." This wasn't hello. It was goodbye. "He's more than your bodyguard, he's your escort home. That's why someone assigned a ninja of his caliber to bodyguard duty." "Are you going to tell anyone?" Naruto asked. "No. I just want to know why. I wondered if you'd leave when you found out about Kyuubi after graduation, but you never seemed to consider it. What changed while you were out of the village?" Naruto considered Shikamaru for a long moment, and glanced at Itachi. "It is your decision, Naruto-sama. I am only your bodyguard." Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes at hearing that honorific again, and at Itachi's lie, but he kept his focus on Shikamaru. "Sasuke's under a death sentence, and I'm never going to be promoted above genin." The lies and backstabbing were too much. He wouldn't tell Shikamaru about the other lies Itachi had revealed. "I can't say I wouldn't do the same in your position," Shikamaru admitted. "I'll keep my mouth shut. Be careful. You have enemies, and this will make more." He looked at Itachi. "Protect him well." "Of course," Itachi murmured. Shikamaru got to his feet and headed for the street. "Naru-san," Itachi called. When Shikamaru turned back, he continued, "One error in your analysis. My assignment to Naruto-sama is not merely to escort him here and home. It is permanent." Shikamaru took in that information, and his eyes narrowed. He understood some of the implications. At least, Naruto was incredibly valuable to whoever had assigned Raven to guard him. Shikamaru hadn't seen much of Raven, but he had observed how the guard moved, and how well he disappeared into his chosen shadow. Shikamaru, who used and understood shadows, had also seen the level of Raven's focus on Naruto and his surroundings. If anything had happened, Raven would have noticed. And handled it, Shikamaru was sure. But Shikamaru asked no questions, made no comments. He nodded to both of them, and left. "Why tell him that?" Naruto asked. "If he reports it, Konoha will know you are valued. They will have to be more careful trying to get you back. Several people have noticed that my skills are above the level of an average bodyguard, though they have no way to know exactly how good I am without seeing me fight." Naruto snorted. If they knew exactly how dangerous Raven was, they'd be astonished. No one would expect someone of Uchiha Itachi's level to be assigned to permanent bodyguard duty, no matter how valuable his principal. "Let's go," Naruto said. "I want to talk to Tsunade." They walked to the Hokage Tower, and had no trouble getting into Tsunade's office. "Has my resignation gone through?" Naruto asked bluntly. "Yes," Tsunade said. "You are officially a civilian resident of Konoha." Naruto turned to the door, unable to stand the look on her face. "Wait," she called. "There's someone you need to talk to before you go." It was a last-ditch effort to convince him to stay, but she didn't expect it to work. Still, she had to try. Reluctantly, Naruto turned back. Whoever she wanted him to see, it wouldn't be easy. And when he saw Iruka walk into the office, he knew he was right. "Hello, Iruka-sensei." Iruka studied Naruto carefully. "Tsunade-sama tells me you've made a decision." Naruto winced, and reached back for Itachi's hand, though he hoped Tsunade and Iruka wouldn't notice. Even if they did, the reassurance he felt when Itachi threaded their fingers together was worth it. I resigned as a shinobi of Konoha, Naruto admitted. And I'm leaving the village. Iruka nodded slowly. Can you tell me why? What are you thinking? Oh, sensei, there's a lot of reasons. I found out things about Konoha, secrets, that make it hard for me to stay here. Moreover, I found a cousin. Well, he found me. I want to get to know him. Have you thought about this? Are you sure this is what you want? Once you've done this, you won't be able to come back. Even if you're leaving legally, you'll be targeted. And you already have people after you. Wouldn't you be safer here? Gesturing back at Itachi with his free hand, Naruto managed to smile. My cousin knows. Raven is good. He is training and guarding me. And I won't have to watch my back from my own superiors there. He winced a little at the bitterness in his voice, but he was bitter about those secrets. Bitter enough to fight someone like Uchiha Itachi. Tsunade asked. That's who's after you. Naruto glanced back at Itachi to hide any signs of laughter he couldn't suppress, but also to signal that he wasn't quite sure how to answer. Itachi was the more gifted liar. With Naruto-sama's assistance, I believe we could fight even someone like Itachi with some success, Itachi said. We could certainly hold him off long enough for Baka to arrive. Iruka nodded, but his focus stayed on Naruto. Is this really what you want? Yes. I'm sorry, and I'll miss you, but it is. Alright, Iruka said. If that is what you've decided, I'll support you. You have to promise to write. I will. Naruto hugged Iruka, grateful his old teacher wasn't going to make this any harder. Are you leaving tonight? Tsunade asked. Yes, Naruto said. I assume you don't intend to go through the gates. I don't think that's a question we should answer, Hokage-sama, Itachi said. I'm sorry, Bachan, Naruto said. No, don't apologize, brat. He's right. Go on, and get out of here before someone comes up with something to stop you. Naruto hugged her too, but he left. I will keep him safe, Itachi said, and followed, as was his job. He was Naruto's guard. They used a hidden gate to get out of the village, one Itachi knew about from a long time ago. Once they were outside the walls, they took off running. Though it was legal for Naruto to leave, they still thought they'd be pursued, as soon as the council realized they were gone. Danzo, at least, would want Naruto back, and had resources that didn't have to worry about the rules. They only stopped running when they met up with Sasuke, and kissed him near the border. How'd it go? Sasuke asked. It wasn't easy, and I don't want to talk about it, Naruto said. Let's get going. I want to get across the border. By dawn, they were out of Hai no Kuni. Naruto wouldn't return for years, and he didn't regret leaving. The end. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.